40 on the West Coast. Today is January 17th, 2017. Welcome to Feuzion News. I am your host, Alex Hughes. I'm on the phone right now with Phil Perry, New England Patriots reporter. So, Phil, I know you are pretty busy these days covering the New England Patriots. They're back in the playoffs. And how are things going down there in New England these days?
Things are good. It's a little rainy. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of weather Patriots and Steelers get on Sunday. One thing that we do know is that regardless of the weather, it sounds like Roger Goodell is not going to be in attendance. So that was one of the big news items today, is the fact that the commissioner will not be here. He'll be in Atlanta taking in the Falcons and Green Bay Packers game. It has a lot of fans in this area, a little bit up in arms. But the players, though, they don't really care. They don't care so much about whether Goodell's going to be here or not.
Yeah, but Roger Goodell, he was a fan, or in the stands, I should say, at the Falcons game last week, right?
He was in Atlanta already during this playoff run, so it's a little bit of a head scratcher. As far as I'm concerned, I would think that at some point he's going to want to return to Gillette Stadium. He hasn't been here since Deflategate was born, that AFC title game 2 years ago. He was here for that one and was a guest of Robert Kraft the night before and was hanging out with everybody and seemed to be getting along well with everybody. And then we all know what happened in the game, during that game, when it comes to the footballs and what's happened since, and he hasn't been back. So the Patriots have raised the championship banner. They're now, they're going to be in the AFC title. They're going to be hosting the AFC title game again. And he still is deciding not to come. And you know what? I understand why. I think there is probably some concern on his part about his physical well-being because I think he has seen and heard quite a bit from Patriots fans over the course of the Deflategate saga. But I think he has to kind of face the music at some point and visit Gillette Stadium, and he could do it in such a way where he would never really be in harm's way. In my opinion, he'd be able to drive into the stadium, without any kind of, whether it's verbal abuse or otherwise from Patriots fans, and just hang out up in a suite and have the cameras, walk on to him once or twice, maybe during the game, and then do the same thing on the way out and head home and never really come into contact with many fans. So I don't know if there's a whole lot to be worried about. I guess, it's him, not me, and so he's probably heard a lot more than I've seen directed towards him. But I think they could do it in a safe manner. And I think at some point in time he's going to have to come.
Yeah, definitely. And one guy that a lot of Patriot fans are worried about injuries as well as Malcolm Mitchell. And I had to ask you, do you think he'll be ready for Sunday? And even if he is, has Michael Ford and Damian Amendola already taken his spot on this roster?
Well, if he's healthy, Alex, I think he would be in uniform, and they'd like to have him on the field. It's just that this knee injury that he suffered in Week 16 has been sort of a lingering problem. And so he has been practicing. It hasn't been so bad that he hasn't been able to be out on the practice field. He has been out there. He's been limited, but he's been out there. And I think they're just waiting for it to kind of turn the corner. It's one of those things where you have a player who has a pretty significant injury history. And so he is a rookie. They took him in the 4th round. That injury history is really the reason he dropped as far as he did. He's a talented guy. If he didn't have that, he might have been a first-round pick. You don't know. So I think part of the reason they've been holding him out is that he's not at full strength yet. And I think the other part is, he's a young player who really factors in heavily to their future plans, and they don't want to risk anything with this guy if he is still feeling some of those lingering knee issues. So, given the depth they have at receiver right now, with Amendola back healthy, with Floyd now factored into the mix. Floyd had a terrible game the other night, but I think they do trust him to a certain extent to be able to execute the offense. And so I don't think they think there's any real reason to rush the guy back. I wouldn't be surprised if he played this weekend, but I don't know if that's a certainty right now.
Do you think Chris Hogan is a go for this Sunday? Because I know he's dealt with a few injuries in the past few weeks as well.
Yeah, his situation as far as he's concerned, it seems a little bit clearer. We had a chance to talk to him in the Patriots locker room today. He left that game against the Texans the other night with a thigh injury. It looked like he had a little bit of an awkward collision with Jadeveon Clowney, of all people, down by the goal line at the end of the first half. And his leg kind of got hit in a weird way, and you could tell he was in some pain immediately thereafter. He ended up leaving the game in the third quarter and didn't come back. But we talked to him today. He wasn't limping at all through the locker room, no ice, anything like that. So that was a good sign. He said he's feeling good and he's expecting to practice this week. So his situation seems to be a little bit more clear. It seems like he'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm from Albany, New York, and Deion Lewis, who is from Albany, right near where I live. Now I have to ask you, do you think he'll be returning kicks this week also? And has the Patriots stuff been working with him on fumbles this week?
The pride of Albany, I love it. You know, he should be back there, in my opinion. I think he'll be given an opportunity to continue to do that. We saw the explosiveness that he can have in those situations with that 98-yard kickoff return, and clearly the ball security issue is an issue. That wasn't his only fumble. He fumbled again. And, is he going to be carrying the football around the facilities all week? He said he might do that. That might help him out. But he's got a couple of other tricks up his sleeve that he wasn't really willing to share. But he's expecting to have that problem figured out by the time the Steelers come to town. And he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. The Patriots are going to try and figure out as many ways as possible to get the ball in those maybe smaller than NFL average hands that Deion Lewis has. He's a little guy, but he's incredibly quick. So whether it's as a returner, a receiver, a runner, he is Mr. Dynamic, and he's the first guy in NFL postseason history to have a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, a return touchdown. And it doesn't surprise me that he's the first guy to do that in the playoffs, because he's a special talent, and he's not too far from home. He's from Albany.
Yeah, no. It's only about 3.5 hours from Gillette Stadium to Albany, New York, so he's right around here.
And he's playing well, and you know what? I know he's got a lot of support from people back home, and he's had a tough career. And if you being from up there, Alex, you're probably familiar with the story, but it's really been remarkable what the guy's gone through in terms of breaking his leg a couple of years ago and essentially missing 2 full seasons and being almost out of the league. He signed a futures contract here in New England before the 2015 season, and really as soon as training camp began, when he was fully healthy, you could tell that he had some skills that we weren't really accustomed to seeing. And then you got to see it with the full pads on and the live hitting in the preseason. I mean, the guy was incredible in terms of stopping and starting and being able to make guys miss in the open field. And he carried it through most of the season last season until he tore his ACL. He came back from that. He was actually on track to start training camp this year. And then he fractures his kneecap, which is actually a pretty common injury for people that have gone through ACL repairs. But it was just another thing on top of all these serious injuries he's had to deal with, and it forced him to miss most of the season. But since he's come back, he's been great.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to ask you, how do you think the Patriots defense will hold up against the Steelers offense this week? And I know this is one of the main questions Patriot fans are wondering going into this big game this Saturday.
It's going to be their biggest test of the season, no doubt, because as good as they've been, Alex, they're the number 1 team in points allowed this season through the course of the regular season, and they've played really well. But there has been a lingering question sort of hanging over the stadium all season because they haven't really faced all that much in terms of competition, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. Really since Russell Wilson came into Gillette, when the Patriots were coming off a bye week and beat them, they haven't faced a whole heck of a lot in terms of talent at that position. You're talking about guys like Jared Goff and Colin Kaepernick. And, Joe Flacco was mixed in there, but he had a down year. And, you had the whole mess at quarterback that the Jets have been dealing with. And Matt Moore has been in for Ryan Tannehill. So it's been a relatively easy road for the Patriots defense when it comes to the quarterbacks they face, and that includes Brock Osweiler, who they saw this past weekend, obviously. So to go up against Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell, who's the best running back in the league, in my opinion, and Antonio Brown, who a lot of people think is the best receiver in the league, he's got to be right up there. This is certainly going to be their biggest test. And you know what? When it comes to some of the personnel decisions, too, that Bill Belichick has made, it's going to be a test in that regard. He decided to get rid of Jamie Collins in the middle of the season before the season started. He decided to get rid of Chandler Jones. If the defense has performed really well without those guys, but those are the kinds of players that could make impacts in a matchup like this one. So in some ways, people will be looking back at those moves as well and say, did he really do the right thing? Because when it came down to crunch time and they finally faced a good offense, did they have enough? I think they do. I do think the Patriots will win this game. They play really well at home. The Steelers, on the other hand, do not, especially offensively. Ben Roethlisberger's had a really down year on the road. And so I think that'll help them, and I think they'll have enough defensively to slow down those really explosive weapons the Steelers have.
Yeah, and that game is on Sunday, not Saturday. Sorry about that. And I want to ask you, what is your prediction for this game on Sunday? Do you think it is going to be a high-scoring or a low-scoring game?
I think it's going to be, relatively high-scoring. I think both these teams obviously so potent. The quarterbacks are so great. I mean, how fun is this, Alex? It's the Final Four. You can look at the quarterbacks that we're all going to be able to watch. Whether it's Roethlisberger, Brady, Aaron Rodgers, who in my opinion is the best on the planet right now with everything he's doing. He's an absolute magician. And Matt Ryan, who's probably going to be the MVP, Boston College guy. So it's going to be a lot of really good offensive football this weekend. And I think that's going to be the case here at Gillette. As good as the Patriots defense has been, the Steelers will get their yards. And I think it's going to be a 31-24 victory for the Patriots. And they're going to be moving on to the Super Bowl to have a chance at their 5th Lombardi trophy.
Okay. Now, I know you just said the Patriots do have a chance to win the Super Bowl again. Now, what's going to be going through Roger Goodell's mind if he does, in fact, hand over the trophy to the Patriots once again?
I think he might be wondering, how did I get myself in this spot? It's one of those things. It's been
the year that Tom Brady was suspended as well. It's the year that Tom Brady was suspended for the 4 games as well. So it's kind of ironic if the Patriots do win the Super Bowl this year. It's the year Tom Brady was suspended for the first 4 games.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the reasons why he may have at one point. Obviously it's a real possibility now, but there was probably a point, whether it was before the season or during that 4-game stretch, where it seemed like a real unlikelihood that the Patriots would be able to get here, whether you're just looking at Brady's age, you're looking at the fact that they had to deal with backup quarterbacks for 4 weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt pretty early in that second game of the season, and they're still able to go 3-1 through that 4-game stretch. And then obviously Brady wins 11 of the 12 games that he plays in the regular season. I don't know if this is exactly how Roger Goodell planned it, but it looks like that's a real possibility down in Houston, that as much as he'd like to avoid Gillette Stadium and the Patriots altogether, he may be faced with the reality that he's going to have to come face to face with those guys at some point.
Yeah. Okay, Phil, I want to say thank you again for coming on my Fusion News episode tonight. And I want you to tell the fans where they can follow you on Twitter and read your articles.
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. It's always a pleasure to be on with you, man. I'm on Twitter at Phil A. Perry, and you can read all of our stuff. Me, Tom Curran, DJ Bean. We've got a lot of great Patriots coverage on our website at gsnne.com.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Phil, for coming on my show tonight.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Take care, man. Enjoy the games this weekend.
Will do. Okay, Fuse Nation, I just wrapped up my first interview of the night of the first 3 with Phil Perry the first. Now at 7 and 5 minutes, I'll be going live with Fred Clare, former LA Dodgers vice president and general manager. What does he have to say about Vince Sully and his day-to-day operations as a general manager of the LA Dodgers? We'll find out next on Fusion News. Thanks for watching. See you soon.